What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday and happy Steelers Saturday. Sit down with Around the 412. I'm Smitty. That is Tyler of Around the 412. There's been a noticeable lack of content on the channel as of late. We apologize. I just feel like we can't get right. You and I cannot get right together, at least. The holidays obviously interfering a little bit in the past there. But then with your shoulder thing, then we were both dealing with illnesses this week. It just hasn't been meant to be for Around the 412 to be producing content, but had to make sure that we at least did this, because when we talked last week, weren't sure that we were going to get this game played. We're getting this game played. The Steelers defeated the Baltimore Ravens in Week 18 in an absolute thriller. We can talk about that a little bit if you would like, just to know about the atmosphere and stuff. To lock in this game, Acrisure Stadium, Monday Night Football, Steelers will host the Houston Texans on Super Wildcard Weekend to put the final bow, the finishing touch on Super Wildcard Weekend. Tyler, how we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Outside of the ailments that you brought up and the whole my shoulder thing, which people know about by now. And then you were sick. I was sick. Even Pat was sick, apparently. I just think that it's been a tough couple of weeks to try to get a regular show going. And that's not just for Steelers. It's for Penguins. And
Jake Mangum's chomping at the bit. I mean,
right. Yeah, we got to get him on. We got to get back to our normal schedule. But our body's got to let us do that as well. But, after last week, we hit stop live, and we did not know whether we were going to be doing another one of these. And wouldn't you know it, by the grace of Tyler Loop's foot, we are doing another one of these shows. And like we said, we didn't do a Steelers episode, so I'd like to at least just mention what happened until it took place on Saturday or last Sunday, excuse me, and what a wild finish to the regular season. Not just for Steelers, not just for Ravens, but literally the regular season of the NFL season was ending on that game. And the fourth quarter, especially, like the back and forth that we had between both teams and the theatrics of it. I mean, I can only imagine what that was like in stadium. Like, I have said that I've never been to a Ravens game before, and that was definitely one I wish I was at, because especially being on the winning side of it, that is like a core memory. Those are the type of games that create Steeler fans, like a generation of Steeler fans, that like a memory that they are never going to forget after that game on Sunday.
There was a little kid in front of me that was his first Steelers game. And I just I couldn't stop thinking about that kid. Like, when I left the game, I just kept thinking about that was really that kid's first game. All he's going to want to do is come back to Steelers games because that was his first one. And he's going to think they're all going to be like this. Buddy, I hate to tell you, they're not all going to be like this, but still to leave that lasting impression. I'll never be able to explain like that. We've talked about the season being a roller coaster. What about that game? What about that quarter? What about with the last 5 minutes of that final quarter? I mean, it was a perfect encapsulation, I feel like, of what the Steelers season has been. And for them to come out on the right side of it, obviously, I feel like they were the better team too. Like, I feel like they got the result that they deserved. Ultimately, it had to come down to a missed kick. But I think not enough people talking about how, like, Boswell gets the one tipped right before. And it's like, no one's really talking about that. Like, if that goes through, Baltimore, the best that they can do is tie the game at the very least. Not enough people talking about that, I feel like. But anyways, back to the point about the atmosphere. I thought Steelers fans really rose to the occasion. We've talked about them in a negative light, I feel like, a lot at times, for the fair weatherness and ability to get taken out of home games, depending on what goes on early. And Baltimore had like the perfect road start with the way that they went down the field immediately and scored quick strike offense. But like, never out of it. They never got out of it. This crowd was into this game from the opening whistle, from the opening kick. And I give them a lot of credit, tip the cap to the fan base for sure, for the way that they showed up in this one. And why I said I felt like they were the better team, I'm not trying to take away the explosives. Like, those can't happen. Those breakdowns that they had, 4 or 5 explosive plays for the Ravens in this one. But just from like a down to down basis standpoint, I thought the Steelers were easily the better team for the majority of the game. And they got the results that they deserved. It obviously had to come down to the missed kick for it to happen. But I felt like if the Steelers would have lost that game, I would have been sitting there saying, man, they really only lost this game. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the impact of the plays, but the quantity of plays that they got beat on by the Ravens would have been 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I think that away from that game, the narrative is that the Steelers are going to be lucky, but I think that if anybody watched that game beginning to end, the Steelers were the ones controlling that game for the most part. Even when the Ravens in those fourth quarters moments had went up and got the score up twice, the Steelers were able to come back and be able to take the lead back pretty easily both times. And so I never really felt like the Steelers were being outplayed outside of like maybe like the first couple of minutes of the game. I felt like the Ravens obviously got off to a hot start. The penalty brought back that big Derrick Henry run, but whenever he had that initially, I'm sure in the stadium you felt this way too, but like at home, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be this type
just the continuation of the playoff game against them last year. Yeah.
But it doesn't end up being that way. We get to talk about another one of these games, and we're playing the Texans on Monday Night Football. All eyes on us. Only game of the day on Monday night. I'm excited for this one, and I think that as far as like matchups goes, a lot of people will look to the defense of the Texans and say like this is a tough matchup, and not see a path to victory for how the Steelers are going to win this game. But as far as like the teams that you could play, and I think I'm more specifically looking at the offensive sides of the football. CJ Stroud is not one of these quarterbacks that could single-handedly take over a game for you like a Josh Allen. And there's really not a lot of them in the AFC this year where Lamar Jackson is not going to be in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is not going to be in the playoffs. So as far as the matchup goes, like it's going to be tough defensively, or like facing their defense, I mean. But as far as the offense goes, I don't think that there's necessarily anything that the Texans do offensively that are going to scare me, but more specifically, like the quarterback matchup, I feel the most comfortable with out of some of the matchups that we could have had.
I do want to say real quick, I don't know that the Steelers needed any vindication. I feel like, though, 2 fourth quarter touchdown drives under 4 minutes left in the game is exactly the reason that you go and get Aaron Rodgers. Like, just within that short span of time, I felt like that was the crowning moment. That was okay, this is why they went and got him. And obviously it worked out in their favor. And he was really good in the fourth quarter. He started out that game not very good, but was very good in the fourth quarter, taking into consideration as well, no DK Metcalf, no Darnell Washington. One of those two pieces back in the fold now in DK Metcalf. Do want to give a shout out. Ricky Duncan, our guy here, was on the making of the Here We Go segment for WTAE Pittsburgh. They got footage of me cheering at the Ravens game Sunday night. I'll have to be, is that already somewhere where I can find it? Or are you saying that's going to play like before the game on Monday night or something? Definitely have to look for that. Mean Green in here as well. Steelers fan since 1975. Steelers winning to get in the playoffs will never get old for me. That's dope. Appreciate you being here. But all right, let's turn the page now. The Ravens are in the rear view. They don't matter. They fired their coach. Who cares about the Ravens right now? We're on to the Houston Texans matchup. We'll start with the side of the ball just because you already brought it up in terms of the Texans offense against this defense. The one thing that I do think gives me a little bit of cause for concern with them is CJ Stroud is very good against man coverage. We'll see if the Steelers decide to deploy that or exactly how they want to defend this Houston Texans offense. But they can create a lot of explosives too. And it's not necessarily like Baltimore where it's Lamar extending plays. It's because their wide receiving core is kind of built for that. We know how good Nico Collins is, but they got two really explosive young rookies at Iowa State as well, and Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, which are both very good. I don't necessarily think Christian Kirk's like that dude anymore. Xavier Hutchinson, a decent part of that receiving core as well. And then Dalton Schultz, I think, is a more than capable tight end. So I'm curious to see what the coverage plan is, but there's certainly a wide receiving group that can create some explosives. Woody Marks out of the backfield, too, has been one of my favorite backs to watch emerge this year. So I'm curious to see what the coverage plan is for the Steelers, who they match up with who. One thing I will say, and I think more people than I have now alluded to this. So, I mean, I tweeted about it. Nick ended up talking about it on 93.7. I was curious to see if like word got out there. Chuck Clark's going to start over Kyle Duggar at safety. I know that Tomlin and TA kind of made it seem like it was like a resources thing in terms of why they allowed those explosives. It was so much attention being put into shutting Lamar and Derrick Henry down in the run game. They kind of let them down on the back end, but the kind of like actions speak louder than words, and they bench Kyle Duggar in game. And now Chuck Clark has been with the ones in practice, except for when like exclusive packages with like the bear front. that the Steelers do. If you know what that is, it's 3 down defensive linemen, the box safety playing on the inside of the edge rusher, whether that's TJ Herbig, Alex, whoever's on the right tackle. You would have the box safety kind of in that spot. Kyle Duggar is in those packages. Outside of that, which tells me they don't trust him playing deep safety right now. So I expect to see a lot more Chuck Clark on Monday night.
It's curious too, because of at least on the surface, what I would say the nature of those two players are, just as players. Like, I would think that Chuck Clark wouldn't provide you as good of deep safety coverage as what Kyle Duggar would. But I mean, the actions speak louder than words. Like, they benched him mid-game. And if that's going to be the case, then I'll be curious to see how much that changes what they deploy. Like, we're questioning how much man they're actually going to do against the Texans. I would think that having Chuck Clark as one of your safeties probably would lead them to play more zone to kind of help out the back end more. And maybe that would be the case because of the way that these receivers are. But I mean, what do you make of that as far as like coverages goes? Like, do you think that one versus the other makes the Steelers defense call it differently, or do you think it won't even matter?
You mean between Duggar or Clark? Which one's in there? No, but sadly, I mean, because I think you go back and watch, and I just don't think Kyle Duggar's been very good. I mean, we were like, it's been a quick turnaround with that happening, and maybe this is a bit of an overcorrection to like totally ice him out if that is going to be the case. But I really have not seen much of a difference on tape from Chuck Clark to Kyle Duggar. And I actually think maybe Clark's been a little bit better because you go back to the first Ravens matchup, and he was like locking Mark Andrews down. Duggar was not doing that against a guy that really can't move that well anymore. So I don't know. I actually feel more comfortable from a coverage perspective in Chuck Clark being out there. What I'm curious about is, like, could we see times where it's just like single high or Jalen Ramsey is the only safety on the field? Because I think they feel really good about the corner room with all those guys being healthy right now. Like, you have Pierre and Eccles back in the fold. You had Asante Samuel Jr. obviously playing opposite of Joey Porter Jr. for a while there. Like, I think that they can get creative at times and maybe just like totally minimize that from a coverage perspective. But I don't think that they're going to be, I don't know. I don't think they're going to have to play a ton of dime necessarily. I mean, just to answer your first question, I don't feel that different, but if anything, I probably feel a little bit better from a coverage perspective with Chuck Clark in there. That's
interesting. I mean, just because like of what we would like perceive the players as when they came to the Steelers.
Sure. I think even going into like Detroit week, but it's just has not been good the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and then that must be like there must be like a serious fall off, because I remember when Duggar first got here, we saw the immediate impact that he had. What the Steelers were doing coverage wise. I mean, that's when they made the switch to having 2 high safety, and you saw. And I still think he can play pretty well like around the box.
I just think like we talked about it. Like, the reason that they got him for as cheap as they did was because of the ankle injury and not really ever fully becoming the athlete again post recovery from that. And I just still think that that's the case. Like, I just don't think he moves like he used to. So I still think he can be like a useful player, but in terms of like the people that were like, this guy's an immediate re-sign, you know, maybe even you move on. I'm not saying that they got to do something with Ramsey's contract, obviously, but you know, people that were saying just move on from Ramsey and roll with Duggar and Elliott. I don't know. I don't know that I would say the team feels the same way. So I'm curious to see how exactly they go. But I'll be honest too. I was having this conversation with somebody. I do feel like this is maybe an overcorrection, if you will, to again just like totally ice him out like this. I just think there's not a clear-cut answer here for which one should be getting the bulk of the snaps. I would probably use both of them. I don't, again, going back to like what I've seen and heard, I just think it's going to be a lot of Chuck Clark and very specific role for Kyle Duggar.
Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe
and Jabril Peppers, we might as well not even talk about anymore. So
I forgot he's even around, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a bunch of special team snaps, but he's taken some penalties on special teams. I think he has like a penalty on like 3 straight games on special teams. And honestly, like even when he's been out there defensively, it's basically as a linebacker. So he's not part of the safety mix.
Yeah. I think that I'm not really, and maybe this is foolish for me to say, but like I'm not really super scared of like getting beat over the top like they did a few times against Baltimore, and maybe that's something foolish to say.
I think you're right,
because we
but I
literally
think for a
just
different
saw
reason.
it. But
I think it's for a different reason, though. I think you're correct because going back to what TA and Tomlin said in terms of the resources stuff, I don't think that you're going to need as many guys in the box to shut down this Texans run game. Like, I don't think you need to commit all those resources to doing so. So you'll be able to drop more guys in coverage. So I agree. I don't think it's necessarily due to anything the Steelers are going to necessarily do better from like a personnel standpoint with who's on the field. I just think there's going to be more guys back because they don't need as many resources in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why, like, offensively, the Texans don't necessarily scare me like even like Baltimore would, because Baltimore has the rushing attack with Derrick Henry and Lamar, and I think that the Texans offense does multiple things like well, but they're not really elite at anything, and I don't think that CJ Stroud, like how we have talked about him as a quarterback, how his sophomore slump that he had compared to his rookie year. This year, he's been a fine quarterback, but like he's not a world beater. He's not what he looked like he was going to be his rookie year. I don't think he's going to play similar to how he played the Steelers the first time he played them 2 years ago, where the Steelers went down to Houston and just absolutely boat raced. But I think that he's a quarterback that could be prone to mistakes. He doesn't make a ton of them, but I think that he could make mistakes in this game. High leverage game in the cold, on the road. I don't think that it's something that is, it's a different environment for him. And so I don't necessarily think that this is a team that offensively scares me. And obviously the defensive side of the ball, that's a different story. But that's why, as I was saying earlier, like as far as matchup goes with the Steelers defense going against an offense, the Texans offense is probably one of the ones that you would look at in the AFC and say, like, this is probably more favorable for the Steelers to go up against as opposed to like a Buffalo or a Jacksonville.
Yeah, the Steelers have trailed by 21 plus points during every game in this losing streak that they've had in the playoffs, 6 straight. Just hard for me to find that path. I'm not saying that the Steelers are going to win this football game. I'm just saying, like, when you're talking about the offensive firepower, where the Steelers have been at defensively the last month, playing pretty well, I have a hard time thinking that this is the type of matchup that could continue that streak. But again, never say never. We'll see how things play out. Let's flip sides, though. Talk about the Steelers offense. Getting DK Metcalf back in the fold, going against, to me, the best defense in the NFL. I think them in Seattle, probably 1 and 2. I'd say Denver, number 3 behind them. But they're just so good to a man. And what I mean by that is, like, personnel-wise, they're just so good. They have such good players on this defense. They're definitely well coached by Matt Burke. But at the same time, they don't have to do things like they don't disguise a lot. Like, what Steelers fans would be probably surprised to know this. Steelers were 7th in disguise rate. Like they play a bunch of different coverages. Their coverage menu definitely expanded in the second half of the season. So the Steelers, to their credit, did a lot of different things defensively. Houston, the best defense in the NFL, far and away the least. They do not play a bunch of they play too high, or they play man. Like that's what they do. Cover 2, man. That's what they stick to. They're very good at it because you got Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Kamari Lassiter, by the way, if you just watch him, he is what the Steelers would love to have in a corner. He is the best tackling corner in the NFL, in my opinion. Super physical, super willing. Nothing gets past him. He's why their perimeter run defense is so good. He's unbelievable in that department. Jalen Petrie, same thing out of the slot. Maybe the best run defending slot that there is in the NFL. They have everything that they need. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, maybe the most disruptive edge duo this year. Kalen Bullock on the back end, maybe the rangiest safety in the NFL. Like, it's hard to find the holes in this defense. Their linebackers are very good athletes, but they're a bit smaller. So maybe that's something we can talk about if there is one thing that you can't attack. And then I guess the interior, the defensive line, potentially a little bit. But this defense is unbelievable. They're well coached, but certainly to me, it's just more about the personnel is just so good. They don't have to do a lot from a schematic standpoint with how good they are.
Yeah, they've got great athletes at every level of the defense. The secondary is amazing because you've got the physicality that their safeties can bring, but then you also have that in their corners too, which you don't always have in a secondary. Typically, if the corners can be less physical than the safeties are, but across the board, you've got this physicality from that back end of their defense, and then you mentioned the rushing attack duo. With Will Anderson and Will Hunter. I think that they just do everything it's such a high level that schematically they don't have to be this juggernaut like we thought, like what we talked about when we were talking about Seattle earlier this year with Mike McDaniel, where they are going to
McDonald.
Mike McDonald, excuse me. Yeah, McDaniel is looking for a job right now. Sorry. With Mike McDonald, with how much sim pressure he uses and how his schematics can be so good, I don't even think that you have to necessarily talk about it that way with the Texans. I just think that they play at such a high level across the board that your schematics can be pretty simple and they're still going to play the defense as well. And that's why when it comes to the matchup for the Steelers, like obviously it's going to be very tough for the Steelers offense. They do get the benefit of having DK Metcalf back, which I think, and I was talking about this with somebody, that I think that if DK Metcalf is on the field in Cleveland, I'm not necessarily saying that the Steelers win the game, but I don't think it looks the way that it did, just because even if DK Metcalf is not going to take over the game, I think that the nature of just having him on the field, his presence on the field, changes the way that the defenses call the game a little bit.
Does he come down with one of those last 3 MVS targets?
That's
I hate to play. I hate to do like the what if game. It's hard for me to believe they don't win that game with him. But
right. Well, and that's why, like, I don't want to say necessarily that they do. Like, it's going to automatically flip the script of that game, and the Steelers win, and we're not even worrying about what happened this past Sunday. But I just think his presence on the field changes how a defense has to use their guys. So I think that's going to be the case. Like, obviously getting him back for this playoffs is going to be a lot better than not, but it's going to be a battle. It's going to be tough. And that's why I do not think that this is going to be, and I think that you're right too, by the way. Don't think this is necessarily going to be that high scoring of a game. And I don't think that you're going to have one of the teams on either side getting to like a 21-0 lead, like how you mentioned in these losses. The Steelers have trailed by 21 points. I can't see the path to that happening. Not only because I think that the Steelers defense is going to limit the Texans offense enough where I just don't see it happen, but I just feel like this is going to be such a tough battle of a game that I don't think that either side is going to be scoring a bunch of points. And it's hard for me to. Okay. No, it's fine. I was going to say it's hard for me to look at this Texans defense and find an area of opportunity for where the Steelers are going to do something right. Because a lot of the things that the Steelers like to do, like getting their playmakers the ball and making plays in the short passing game, and that's something that the Texans defend well. So I just don't necessarily see where the obvious path to a game plan for the Steelers is going to be offensively. But I do think that being at home and having DK back, that at least gives you I don't want to necessarily say the edge, because I don't think that anybody has necessarily the edge against this Texans defense, but I think that it opens up opportunities for you that it would be more beneficial than if you were playing in Houston. So
I think an underrated part to DK coming back is this is a very good tackling secondary. We talked about that. I'm not necessarily saying the Steelers are going to have a ton of success running on the perimeter, but I do think that they're better suited, or at least in a better position to maybe do so, because DK is a very good blocking wide receiver. Skoranek out of the cast now. He can be in those situations as well. He's a very good blocking receiver on the outside. Like, they have Adam Thielen, like they have wide receivers that can block on the perimeter. Obviously, no Darnell Washington kind of hurts from that respect, but maybe that's where you get, Spencer Anderson attached and move out. You get guards pulling to the outside. So I do think that maybe in this game, there is a little bit of a path there to hit on an explosive or two in the run game. with the perimeter run game, despite how good the Texans secondary is at tackling, just because I think that the Steelers this week now getting DK Metcalf are better equipped to do that, maybe in the best position since like when Skoranek got hurt, because he hasn't been able to contribute as a receiver since that injury. So you're talking a month plus. I feel like the Steelers are now in a better position because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And I think that is an area where the Texans can be attacked, is that perimeter run game. Because I don't necessarily think that they're going to be running the football up the middle that well. Like you said, like they're and especially their linebackers maybe a little smaller, but they are athletic. And I just don't think that they're going to be throwing the Steelers, are going to be throwing the football even the way that they did a week ago against Baltimore. Like I think that if they are beating the Texans in the passing game, I think that it's going to be winning one-on-one battles. And not necessarily just getting the ball to your guys and having them make plays. So
I think you gotta, and I brought this up to DB, and I don't know, in terms of like rates, how much the Steelers do this or how well the Texans defend it. But one thing that popped in my mind is like, could they run a bunch of mesh concepts and just like try to create a bunch of havoc in the middle of the field and hope guys get crossed up and don't carry their assignment, past the middle of the field. I'm curious to see if maybe the Steelers try to do something like that, because like you mentioned, these are good press corners that will get their hands on guys within 5 yards or within 5 yards. And by that time, once they break off that and release, I mean, with these edge rushers, is Aaron Rodgers still even going to have the ball in his hands able to throw? So I am very curious as well, like you, how the Steelers offense has operated this year, if it's translatable to this matchup specifically, other than like the dump offs to Warren and Gainwell. I think that can still happen. I guess hope that the Texans show up and don't tackle as well as they have all year in this one. That would be like the path that I see in terms of what the Steelers have done offensively, translating to this one.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things that I look at with the Steelers offense, and I think that at least bodes well for you. They have not turned over the football a lot the entire year, and they have not given up a ton of sacks. If you do those two things well in this game, that's at least positives for your offense. If you're not putting yourself into bad situations by turning over the football and giving up bad sacks. So if they're able to continue to do that, which I'm curious to see the difference in play from Aaron Rodgers, because I've seen someone talk about this online, and it made me think that now that we're in the playoffs and we are in the dance, and this may be Aaron Rodgers' last time here, are we going to see him throw away the ball as quickly as it seems sometimes? Are we going to see him be a little more defensive in his play, or like is he going to put his body on the line more just because he knows like this could be it?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of, I don't know that there's like truth to in terms of what his approach has been week to week, that like it's always been about preserving himself to make sure that he got to the postseason. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I've seen people throw that out there. So hard for me to say, but I mean, it should be like throw the kitchen sink, like everything the Steelers have, everything each one of these individual players have, lay it on the line in this one. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said. And the Texans are saying the same thing on the other side. Like in this situation, it's obviously do or die for both teams. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is some truth to that in terms of what their approach and Aaron's approach has been all season up to this point, was like, let's just get him to the playoffs healthy and go from there. Did suffer a fractured wrist along the way, but he's been playing pretty well with it.
42 years old. Okay.
Yeah. There are a couple comments I wanted to bring up because Logan a while ago made me chuckle with this, because the thing that came into mind for me, the clip of Anthony Edwards. Yeah, they got Kevin Durant, but we got Jaden McDaniels though. When he said about Dylan Cook, and all credit to Dylan Cook, he's been good for sure. But when you think about the edge rusher duo that he's going to be facing in this one, hard not for me to at least chuckle a little bit. A lot of people also bringing up the Steelers Monday Night Football streak. Obviously, 23 in a row, haven't lost Monday night game at home since 1991, and the Texans don't win very much on Monday night. Certainly not on the road. Haven't had to do so in the playoffs either. CJ Stroud has not had to do so in the playoffs. So if you're looking for an advantage there, I guess there you go. Mike Tomlin, it's interesting because like you bring that up, right? Like that's just insane. They've won 23 straight games on Monday night. Like how is that possible? And what is the correlation to like the 2025 version of the Steelers compared to like when this started in 1991. There really is none. But what I will say is I think specifically for Tomlin with his record on Monday night, what I think it says is like he's really good with that extra day to prepare. So I think he just has a good plan of attack for what the week looks like leading up to it. We saw it a bit differently. Obviously, no practice on Wednesday. They jump into it and have their first practice on Thursday. It just expands the week out. And I just think that it speaks to how good he is at getting his team prepared with that extra day of preparation.
I'm going back to look, and
good enough for me. There we have it.
Well, no, I'm going back to look at who they played on that Monday night game. All those
started
years
at
ago.
the streak.
Yeah, Cincinnati Bengals, Monday Night Football, October 19th. And can you guess who the quarterback for the Steelers was? Or do you know who the Steelers? Or do you know? Actually, can you guess both quarterbacks? Who was the quarterback for the Bengals and who was the quarterback for the Steelers?
Would that have been Boomer or no?
It is Boomer.
Okay, and was that before? Would Neil O'Donnell have been the guy yet, or Bubby?
It is Neil O'Donnell. Good job.
All right. Yeah.
By the way, Neil O'Donnell, absolute gas against the Bengals. Neil O'Donnell, 23 of 37, 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Boomer Esiason, 11 of 22, 86 yards.
I mean, this is just factually incorrect. I'm not even sure like what
they've not gone to the playoffs since Tomlin took over. So I want to know who was the head coach when they won the Super Bowl 43.
Yeah, like forget going to the playoffs. Like they won a Super Bowl. Unless you're talking about like in a specific period of time, that still wouldn't be correct. You could have said
it's not even correct going back a year.
They won. I know. Yeah. So I don't know. Fantasy Football Games podcast. Maybe in your fantasy, that's been the case. I'm not sure. You got a team in your league that's.
I mean, if you listen to how a lot of Steeler fans will talk about Tomlin in the playoffs, that probably would seem like the case.
Yeah. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. If that's what you're trying.
The last game that they won is the one with the 6 field goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 18-15 against Kansas City.
Yeah. And the week before that was against the Dolphins when Bud Dupree decapitated Matt Moore. I like that we both went to decapitated Matt Moore. I thought that team was winning it all. Truthfully.
And then is that the year that we got 28-3 in the Super Bowl against the Falcons?
Ooh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe was 16 when they won their last playoff game. Damn, I'm old. Wait.
You were 16 when they won their last playoff game.
No, don't say that because you're younger than both of us. So
yeah, Smitty and I were 21 when they won their last playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
I turned 31. I turned 31 next month, by the way.
Yeah, I got until June, but I'm going bald today, so might as well be like 40. All right. Anyways, where were we in terms of this game specifically, though? We were talking about the streak, I guess, for the Steelers on Monday night, and if there is any credence to the way that I don't think that plays into a matchup in 2025. To be honest, I don't think
the streak plays into it, but it at least gives good vibes for the game.
Mm-hmm. What I think is much more impactful is what we talked about with like Houston is a dome team in Houston. They got I wish it was snowing for this one, but it's going to be in the 20s, not like incredibly cold, not teens, not like a wind chill in the single digits like we've seen at times this year. But still, it's going to be a different environment for them to play in for sure. Curious to see how that impacts them because it's not like, again, I like Woody Marks. Tomlin, I don't know if he has respect for a running back more than he has Mr. Chubb. So, I mean, the Texans can run the ball a little bit, but not to the point where that can be like the identity of the offense and they can take over a game to the point where I'd say like this is the type of elements that this offense wants to play in.
Yeah, they are a dome team, so obviously half their games have been played in the dome, at least in home, which actually is greater because they played 2 games in LA. They played a game in Indy, but also looking at some of their like road games that they've played so far this season. The one game that they have played where it would have been cold weather was against Kansas City on December 7th, and they won 20-10. But by that time, Kansas City was kind of squabbling. That was Sunday Night Football, and that was like the death of Kansas City Chiefs. But besides that game, they have not really played a game that would be outside in colder weather. So this is going to be like their first like real experience so far this season where they're going to be in this type of environment.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's get into some bold predictions and see how we think this one's going to go. I think we set it up on a platter pretty well. I'll start on the offensive side of the ball because I kind of alluded to my pick already. In terms of getting DK Metcalf back in the fold, Ben Skoranek now with that cast off, I do think this team's going to be able to run the ball a little bit on the perimeter. The amount of explosive run plays that the Texans have give up is about 2 per week. I'm going to say the Steelers go over that. So 3+ explosive run plays for the Steelers on Monday night.
I like it. For me, offensively, like we talked about how much this Texans defense does well. But I'm going to say, and I mentioned how I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to put his body on the line. Aaron Rodgers, anytime touchdown scorer. Rushing touchdown.
Yes. Because you know what that means. We're getting the belt.
Yeah.
We're getting the belt. It's safe for rushing touchdown.
Listen, he has at times this year tried to beat a guy to the edge. And we saw it. Was it this past week where he just kind of went down? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, I'm not making that angle and just kind of went down. Listen, I think he's going to put that body on the line. I think that there's one area where the Texans defense has not been like super elite, and it's whenever teams get into the red zones, they give up touchdowns at like a mediocre rate in the league. And I think that there's going to be a lot of distraction, maybe some of those mesh routes that you're saying over the middle, and he's going to just leak out to the left side and beat somebody to the edge, put his body on the line. Maybe he even dives for it at that point. Who knows? We're in the playoffs, but Aaron Rodgers, anytime touchdown score.
We should have mentioned when we were talking about the Steelers offense, though, kind of get sick of saying it in terms of 88, but the Texans, with how much cover 2 they play, with how much man they play, they do give up some stuff over the middle. I do think Pat, because you're talking about smaller linebackers, could have a decent matchup to do some damage in this one. I thought he played pretty well against the Ravens last week. 3 catches, all for first downs, 51 yards. The one set up the Gainwell touchdown, the second to last scoring drive for the Steelers. Maybe that's a matchup to watch as well. Nice to see Boston join in here late. Joel says offense, they create more explosives than the Texans. Cal catches 2 crossers for 40+. Calvin Austin this year, 3 touchdowns, all of them game winning.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He also had one that wasn't a touchdown that was probably game preventing.
Jets, Patriots, Ravens, all 3 his 3 touchdowns.
Nice.
Well, so obviously Boswell had to kick the field goal at the end, actually. So how's that? That can't be considered game winning. Don't just spout stuff that you saw online, because I saw that he had 3 touchdowns all game winning. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, Boswell had to kick a 59-yard field goal in the game against the Jets to win it. Maybe it was go ahead.
Maybe go ahead.
Yeah.
What about you just change it to fit your narrative.
That's what I meant. I meant go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Was it the Seahawks game where the ball was intended for Pat, but he actually yeah.
Okay. He just like slid in front of it. Yeah. Involved Gainwell, Warren, Metcalf, and Freiermuth. That has to be the offense, right there.
So involve the good players.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
I like the strategy.
Yeah. Those are their 4 best eligibles for sure. So I think that's who the offense definitely needs to funnel through. Pat needs to be involved more, says Ricky. All right. What do you think of defensively?
Defensively, like I said, I think that while the Texans don't turn over the ball a ton, they're going into an environment that I just don't think that they have been accustomed to playing into, especially in the big moments in the playoffs under the lights. I think that the Steelers are going to have 2+ takeaways in this game.
Okay. Speaking of 2, we'll stick with a number. Chuck Clark going to play in this one quite a bit, I think. I am going to say he has 2+ pass deflections. I would love for one of those to also turn to a turnover, and we can be right. We can both be right on the same thing. But just he has been a magnet for the ball in terms of it getting to him. Now, whether or not he completes the play has been a different conversation, but the ball has found him. So give me Chuck Clark to be around the ball yet again. 2+ pass deflections. Joel says Harmon takes over the game, gets 2 turnovers. JPJ gets an interception. You know, Joel's calling it.
If you call it every week, it's bound to happen eventually.
If Ricky's right here and Pat has 2 touchdowns and the Steelers win, I don't have to worry about Sarge driving me home from the game. I will levitate home from the game. I'll make it back in like 3 minutes from Pittsburgh.
Ricky knows we're playing the Texans, not the Bengals, right?
I wish we were playing the Bengals. I'm starting to. I don't know if this fantasy football games podcast is. They might be a bot, to be honest with you. Reading some of their stuff seems very.
Pittsburgh will go to the Super Bowl this year, but will the game be close or a huge spread score? That's ominous, and it's interesting that.
What is your pick? Pittsburgh.
It's also interesting that he's calling about the Steelers going to the Super Bowl, even though they've never been to the playoffs under Mike Tomlin.
Joel says this is the game. He gets an interception. I can see it in Smitty's bald head. Interesting because it's not bald yet, but soon. And then we can.
Joey had one interception against the Colts?
Yes.
And that was the day that everybody was getting takeaways.
Did have one when I was playing Madden yesterday for this game.
Oh, there you go.
So
does he have stone hands in Madden too?
No. Glue. Logan says Steelers will attack on special teams knowing they can't offense, trick play on special. I actually like this quite a bit. We feel good. I mean, although they've missed a kick in 3 straight games, I was about to say I feel good about the Steelers special teams like being better than pretty much any other special teams unit. I like the shout, though. Again, kind of throwing the kitchen sink. Got to leave everything out there. Not a bad call. Say we're going to see something on special teams.
And, I mean, I always like to say we have the edge as far as kickers, even though we have missed a kick in 3 straight games. But Fairbairn is used to kicking in a dome. He doesn't have that benefit this time. So
yeah.
As far as a fantasy matchup goes, I always try to pick a kicker that kicks in a dome. And so Fairbairn was one of my kickers all year in a fantasy league, but he's not kicking in the dome this week. Maybe have some of that Tyler Loop problem. Although, listen, Tyler Loop, not to go back to that Ravens game and spend a lot of time on it, but he didn't. It wasn't the wind. He just mishit it. It was a straight up miss.
I know. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I wanted him to miss it in that moment, but you know, the human in me just like felt terrible for him. I just wish it didn't come down to that for him. You know, I just wish that Jalen Ramsey would have broke up the 4th and 7 to Likely, and we never even get that spot where he has to miss that kick. And now just that be on his shoulders.
Well, and then you have Raven fans going into like his fiance's DMs or his wife's DMs. And it's like, people are ridiculous. They need to cut that crap out.
Boston says DK opening drive touchdown, Highsmith strip sack, go Steelers. All right. We got to get to final scores. If you watch Steelers afternoon drive as well, I'm not differentiating from my pick here. I do feel like outside of the Chargers, this was the best possible matchup the Steelers could have gotten in round 1, because I think it could be a rock fight, ugly defense. Tomlin has the knack to kind of get the most out of his teams in these environments and win a game that like it doesn't look like they should win. And then you look up at the end of the game and they're on the right side of the column. So I'm not picking them to win this game, though. I just have a hard time
Boo!
I have a hard time seeing there being enough from this offense to win. I think the Steelers can definitely play well enough defensively where they hold the Texans under 20 points. It's a game in the fourth quarter, unlike these playoff matchups in the last 6 years have been, and it could go either way. I just don't see it going in the Steelers' favor with this Texans defense. I'm a big believer. Also, let me throw this out there. I will say this. Maybe this will make Steelers fans hate me a little less right now. Whoever wins this game between these two teams is also winning the divisional round. So I think whoever wins this wins 2 playoff games. I'll throw that out there right now.
Are you willing to throw out your matchup if
Yes.
that would be the case?
I think
if the
think
Steelers
Buffalo,
and Texans win, who do you think they play?
Yeah, so I think Buffalo is going to beat Jacksonville. So they would be the ones going to Denver, and Pittsburgh goes to New England. Who will have beaten the Chargers, in my opinion. How about this, though? Allen picked the Chargers and Bills, which if that happens and then the Steelers win, they're hosting in the divisional round. The Steelers are.
And they would be hosting the
Bills.
Mm-hmm. I just do not want to play Buffalo at all costs. Like, unless we get to the
rather
AFC
play on the road.
Championship.
You'd rather play on the road than play Buffalo at home.
Honestly, yeah. I just feel like Buffalo would, for some reason, out of every team in the AFC, Buffalo's the one that I just envision like one of, and maybe it's because we've seen it in recent years, but they are like the one team that I could see blowing open the game like we talked about, where the Steelers have been down by 21 in all of these playoff games that they've lost.
Sure, they have.
Like they're the one team that I think that they could just beat the piss out of the Steelers and go home. They could take their ball and go home.
I see. Like I wouldn't predict that that's going to happen, but they are the team that can do that.
No, and that's what's scary for me. Like I would much rather play on the road at one of these higher seeds where, I mean, the Steelers have beaten the Patriots this year. I'm not saying that they're necessarily the same team that they played whenever they beat the Patriots, but they have beaten the Patriots. I think that they can go into Foxborough and win. And I think that Denver has been so volatile this year that they could go into Denver and win. Like similar thing that we're talking about with the Texans. Like the defense is fantastic, but the offense at times is very questionable and not that high end. So I would rather those scenarios than having to play Buffalo.
Carol's disappointed. I'm sorry, Carol.
Yeah, put a K on his name.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah. Joel says Buffalo has given us a belt since 2021. All right. Yeah. So I got the Texans 19-17, and it's going to be disgusting because think about that. We're a Boswell kick away from potentially winning that game. I don't even think he gets a chance at the end of the game. This is going to be heartbreaking.
So you really just hate us.
Mm-hmm. I think Houston kicks a field goal late in the game, and we don't have enough time to get in field goal range.
Okay. Well,
so that's the worst part. Steelers are going to be winning this game 17-16 late.
Man, you really hate us. You really don't want us to feel good. I really think that this is the year that the Steelers could get the monkey off their back and beat somebody in the first round. I mean, obviously it would have to be the Texans, but the AFC without some of the teams that are the usual suspects that are there, without the usual quarterbacks that are there, I just feel like and based off of last week too, like coming down to the last game of the season, the last kick of the season, like there's just something about this team where I feel like they have
are they the team of destiny?
Like a team of destiny, luck on their side.
You remember last week how I asked you like if your pick was in part just because like you don't want to believe that it can end, like rational or not, like throw rationale out the window. Is there a part of that pick that was made because like you just believe there's something about this team that just wouldn't let the season end? And I'll be honest, like that is the one thing that almost made me pick the Steelers to win this game was just something there where it's like, I don't want to believe that it's going to be over without this team winning a playoff game. It's like it multiplied by 10 after watching that game against the Ravens and the way that it ended, but still,
yeah,
just
And I think that the Steelers are going to find a way to win. So, yes, I am predicting the Steelers are going to win. They're going to get that monkey off their back. They're going to win a playoff game for the first time in 10 years. And it's going to be fantastic. No idea what's going to happen in week 2. No idea who they're going to play. But I do think that they're going to beat the Texans. They're going to beat the Texans on Monday night. And it's going to shock everybody that is not a Steeler fan, because I feel like majority of people are probably just going to look at the Texans defense, predict them to win, and see the history of what the Steelers have done in the playoffs. A lot of people probably don't even think that they should be there in the first place and that they're lucky to be there. I don't think that's the case. I genuinely think that the Steelers are going to win this football game. I do think it's going to be ugly. I don't think it's going to be like a fancy game. I don't think it's going to be a great game to be watching or even be in attendance for outside of the winning part. But I think that they're going to win. Final score 20-16.
Okay. So we're right there in terms of the final score in 1917, 20-16. All right. I like it. Well, if your prediction comes true, you guys don't even need to hear my prediction next week. I already told you. If the Steelers win 1, they're winning 2. And I mean, path is there for them to host in the AFC Championship as well, right? If Buffalo beats Jacksonville and New England wins against the Chargers, then we go to New England. Buffalo goes to Denver. Buffalo beats Denver. We beat New England. Steelers host Buffalo in the AFC Championship. Then are you okay with playing Buffalo?
I feel like I'd have to be at that point, but
would you rather play Buffalo at home in the AFC Championship or have to go to somewhere else for the AFC Championship?
At that point, if we get to the AFC Championship, I'd probably say playing at home. However, like I think that the reason I say that is because if the Steelers get to that point where they're in the AFC Championship and they're at home, I feel like they could beat anybody, and there's no way that they were going to lose. Maybe obviously they could lose. That is very in the realm of possibility. But if they get to the AFC Championship this year, they're going to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
Real quick, because we got to get out of here because I have to go shave my head. Ricky said I think the Jags beat Buffalo. Like, they are 100% the better team. It's just kind of going back to my thought about the Steelers. Is Josh Allen really going to lose in the first round in this AFC playoff field? That would be like, then you're really tough. I mean, it's already wide open.
That'd be an all-time stinker. And imagine the narrative around Josh Allen if he loses in the first round this year.
Yeah. Especially like if he doesn't play super well in the loss. Like if they lose 44-40 and he plays incredibly well, but their defense just lets him down
and doesn't have the ball like last.
Yeah, there will be people that are idiots that are talking about how it's like a playoff disappointment for him individually. Like, sure,
Nick Wright,
team, yes, but yes. But if he goes out there and he doesn't play well and they lose, I think it's going to be a nasty conversation surrounding him because of the quarterbacks that aren't there. That being said, I did pick Buffalo to win just because I just tend to lean on the quarterback in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence has been fantastic as well. But I actually think with how much talk has been about the quarterbacks, to me, Buffalo ends up winning this game because of Jimbo, James Cook.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call him Jimmy.
Yeah, it's a very small group, I believe, within the Buffalo fan base.
Yeah. If Buffalo loses, maybe Josh Allen is not the guy and they need to trade him to Pittsburgh. Just saying.
Big Jim. It's like Ricky Sarge will appreciate this. Amount of unwarranted slander Josh is going to get if they lose, or is going to be generational if he loses. Shout out to Jimmy Uso. Absolutely shout out to Jimmy Uso. Great point to end it here. All right. Next time you guys see me, I will not have any hair. And next time you guys see me, we'll hopefully be talking about
hard for them to tell already.
Yeah, true. Maybe I'll start not wearing a hat.
Maybe at least one episode.
Maybe. we'll see. We'll see how the Steelers game goes on Monday night and how I'm feeling. Hopefully this is not the last one of these that we do, but it has been awesome this season, every Saturday to do this. Hopefully we're doing it again next Saturday, talking about an opponent that is yet to be determined. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on your way out if you have not already. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything that we talked about. If you got a question for a future episode, your bold predictions, offense, defense, and also how you feel like this game is going to go, whether you are watching live or watching it back. Be sure to do that for us. Hit us up everywhere at around the 412. Live tweet with us, although that's a bit hard for me to do when I'm at the game. But still, just tweet at us, get at us. You guys know where to find us at this point. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, you can also leave a comment on the individual episodes now as well. You can find Tyler everywhere. Wildland Store Teach 33. You can find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH. And again, hit us up everywhere at around the 412. Appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoy the game and hope we're doing another one of these. Until then, here we go.